Mother-in-law keeps comparing me to late ex-wife of my husband and tells me how I will never hold a candle to her. After getting taunted for the last time, I told her how her late daughter-in-law actually hated her, and now she's in tears and won't talk to me or my husband. I, Sarah, 36 female, met my husband Josh, 36 male, 4 years ago. Josh and I both worked in the pharmaceutical industry, but we were both from different companies. Our paths crossed during a conference, and we struck up a conversation about work. Instantly, I found myself drawn to his intelligence, humor, and genuine kindness. We exchanged contact information and promised to stay in touch after the conference. We initially hit it off as work buddies, exchanging industry insights and sharing a laugh or two during those tedious conference sessions. Little did I know, Josh had a soft spot for me right from the start. It wasn't until a few months into our friendship that he mustered up the courage to spill the beans about his feelings for me. Talk about a plot twist. I'll admit, I was taken aback at first. I mean, who wouldn't be? But as I got to know Josh better, it became clear that there was something special brewing between us. So I took a leap of faith, and we decided to give this whole dating thing a shot. And boy, did we hit it off. From cozy dinner dates to adventurous weekend getaways, every moment spent with Josh felt like a scene straight out of a romantic flick. 2 years flew by in a blur of laughter, love, and countless shared dreams. Then came the moment I had been secretly dreaming of. Josh popped the question. It wasn't a grand, over-the-top gesture, but rather a simple, heartfelt proposal that spoke volumes. Picture this: a quiet evening stroll in our favorite park, the sun setting in hues of orange and pink, and Josh down on one knee, holding out a ring that sparkled as bright as his eyes. I couldn't say yes fast enough. With the ring on my finger and a permanent smile plastered on my face, we dove headfirst into wedding planning. We both agreed that we wanted something intimate, surrounded only by our nearest and dearest, so we opted for a small wedding ceremony that exuded warmth and love in every detail. The big day finally arrived, and it was nothing short of magical. Picture a quaint garden adorned with fairy lights, the air filled with the sweet scent of fresh flowers, and the sound of laughter echoing all around. With our closest friends and family by our side, Josh and I exchanged vows that were more than just words. They were promises of forever. As I stood there gazing into Josh's eyes, I knew with every fiber of my being that I was exactly where I was meant to be. The journey from colleagues to confidants, from friends to partners, had led us to this beautiful moment of unity and love. Josh's family was like a second home to me. His father, 2 sisters, and his mother Brenda were all such lovely people. Well, mostly lovely. Brenda was a bit of a mystery to me. She never quite warmed up to me the way the others did. It wasn't for lack of trying on my part, but sometimes you just can't crack certain shells. Now, before I delve into Josh's past, there is something you should know. He wasn't always just mine to love. Before me, Josh was married to a wonderful woman named Ava. They were high school sweethearts who took the plunge into marriage at a young age. But life threw them a curveball when Ava was diagnosed with cancer. Watching someone you love battle such a ruthless disease is never easy. For Josh and Ava, it was a roller coaster of hope and despair, with each chemo session and doctor's visit bringing both dread and a silver of optimism. They fought tooth and nail, clinging to each other but despite their unwavering love and determination, cancer can be cruel beyond measure. After a long and grueling battle, Ava lost her fight. It was a devastating blow that left Josh shattered. The pain of losing his high school sweetheart, his partner in crime, was unimaginable. I can't even begin to fathom the depth of Josh's grief during that time. Losing a spouse is a wound that never truly heals, a void that can never be filled. It took every ounce of strength for Josh to pick up the pieces of his broken heart and soldier on, to face each day without the love of his life by his side. And so, it's no wonder that it took him quite some time to even consider opening his heart to love again. The scars from losing Ava ran deep, leaving behind a lingering sense of fear and hesitation. But love has a funny way of finding us when we least expect it, doesn't it? In the midst of his pain and grief, Josh found solace in our budding friendship, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. And as our bond grew stronger, so did the realization that maybe, just maybe, there was room in his heart for a new love story. Navigating the delicate balance between honoring the past and embracing the present hasn't been easy for either of us. There are moments when the ghost of Ava's memories lingers in the air, casting a shadow over our happiness. But we've learned to lean on each other, to cherish the memories of the past while forging ahead into the future together. As for Brenda, well, her cold demeanor towards me may stem from a myriad of reasons. Perhaps she sees me as a reminder of a painful chapter in Josh's life. Or maybe she's simply struggling to come to terms with the idea of him moving on. Whatever the case may be, I've learned to accept her for who she is, quirks and all. Since the day Josh and I started dating, she's made it her personal mission to remind me that I'll never quite measure up to Ava. It's like she's stuck in this prenuptial comparison game, and no matter what I do, I always come up short in her eyes. I remember one particular instance, like it was yesterday. It was Thanksgiving dinner, and the whole family was gathered around the table, passing dishes and sharing stories. Everything seemed fine and dandy until Brenda decided to drop a bombshell. Out of nowhere, she starts reminiscing about the Thanksgiving dinner she used to have with Ava. How Ava was this amazing cook who could whip up a feast fit for royalty, while I apparently struggled to boil an egg without burning it. Talk about a low blow. Then there was a time where we were all flipping through old photo albums, reliving precious memories captured on film. Brenda pulls out a picture of Ava and Josh arm in arm, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You know, Ava had the most infectious smile. You should try smiling more like her." I mean, come on. It's not like I'm trying to replace Ava or erase her memory from their lives. I respect the love they shared and the memories they made together. But constantly being held up to this impossible standard, it's enough to make anyone feel like they're constantly falling short. But you know what? Despite Brenda's constant comparisons, I refuse to let her words define me or my relationship with Josh. Because at the end of the day, it's not about living up to some idealized version of Ava. It's about embracing who I am and the love that Josh and I share. Sure, Ava may have been an incredible woman in her own right, but that doesn't diminish the love that Josh and I have for each other. We've built something special, something unique, that's entirely our own. And no amount of comparing will ever change that. Trying to keep my cool in the face of Brenda's constant critiques was like trying to navigate a minefield blindfolded. No matter how thick-skinned you think you are, having someone scrutinize your every move can really start to wear you down. I'd be lying if I said it didn't get to me at times. There were moments when I found myself second-guessing everything I said or did, wondering if I was somehow falling short of Brenda's expectations. It's like walking on eggshells, never quite sure when the next bombshell is going to drop. And to make matters worse, it wasn't just Brenda who seemed to be picking up on the tension. Even Josh's other family members were starting to notice the elephant in the room. You could cut the awkwardness with a knife whenever Ava's name came up in the conversation. And it was becoming increasingly clear that something had to give. I tried my best to maintain a brave face, to brush off Brenda's comments with a forced laugh and a casual shrug, but inside, I was struggling. It's hard enough navigating the complexities of a new relationship without feeling like you're constantly being compared to someone else, especially someone as beloved as Ava. But amidst all the chaos and uncertainty, Josh was my rock. He was the one who reminded me time and time again that I was more than enough just as I am. His unwavering support and unconditional love were the lifelines I clung to when the waves of doubt threatened to pull me under. One day, amidst all the tension with Brenda, I found myself confiding in Josh's sister, Emma, 29 female. It was one of those heart-to-heart conversations that just spill out before you even realize it. I poured my heart out to her, telling her everything about the strained dynamic between Brenda and me. And let me tell you, Emma's response was a real eye-opener. As I bared my soul, Emma listened with a sympathetic ear, nodding along as I recounted each frustrating encounter with Brenda. But then, she dropped a bombshell of her own. Apparently, Brenda and Ava's relationship wasn't all sunshine and rainbows either. According to Emma, Brenda and Ava had their fair share of clashes back when Ava was still alive and kicking. It was like oil and water. Their personalities just didn't mesh well together. I couldn't help but feel a pang of surprise at this revelation. After all, from the way Brenda spoke about Ava, you'd think they were the best of friends. But as Emma went on to explain, everything changed when Ava fell ill. Despite their rocky history, Brenda stepped up to the plate in a big way. She became Ava's primary caregiver, devoting herself wholeheartedly to easing Ava's pain and providing comfort in her darkest hours. It was a side of Brenda that I had never seen before, and honestly, it caught me off guard. Here I was, struggling to find common ground with this woman who had once been a lifeline for the woman I loved. It was a sobering realization, to say the least. After hearing Emma's perspective on the strained relationship between Brenda and Ava, I couldn't shake the feeling of curiosity. So as soon as I got home, I wasted no time in pulling Josh aside for a heart-to-heart of our own. And let me tell you, his version of events couldn't have been more different. According to Josh, Ava and Brenda's relationship was far from rosy. In fact, it was more like oil and vinegar, with Brenda constantly rubbing Ava the wrong way. He recounted several instances where Brenda's well-intentioned comments came across as nothing short of criticisms. For starters, there was a time when Brenda couldn't resist commenting on Ava's cooking skills, or lack thereof. Instead of offering helpful advice or constructive feedback, she would make snide remarks about burnt roast and soggy vegetables. And let's not forget the countless times she'd butt heads with Ava over trivial matters. But things hit the fan when Ava fell ill. Suddenly, Brenda went from being an occasional thorn in Ava's side to a full-blown helicopter parent, hovering over her every move. She'd swoop in like a whirlwind, rearranging Ava's medication schedule and insisting on accompanying her to every doctor's appointment. At first, Ava tried to brush off Brenda's overbearing behavior, chalking it up to concern for her well-being. But as time went on, it became increasingly clear that Brenda's meddling was doing more harm than good. Ava felt suffocated, like she had no control over her own life anymore. That's when Josh decided enough was enough. He couldn't stand by and watch his wife's autonomy be stripped away piece by piece, all in the name of Brenda's misplaced concern. So he did what any loving husband would do. He stepped in and put his foot down. It wasn't an easy conversation to have, confronting his own mother about her intrusive behavior. But Josh knew that if he didn't set boundaries now, things would only continue to escalate. So he sat Brenda down and had a heart-to-heart, explaining, in no uncertain terms, that while her support was appreciated, she needed to respect Ava's wishes and give her the space she needed to heal. To say it was a tense conversation would be an understatement. There were tears, raised voices, and more than a few hurt feelings. But in the end, Josh's words hit home, and Brenda begrudgingly agreed to take a step back and give Ava the breathing room she so desperately needed. Looking back on it now, I can't help but admire Josh for his courage and conviction. It takes a special kind of strength to stand up to your own family, especially when it means challenging the status quo. But he did it out of love for Ava, and that's something I'll always respect him for. As if dealing with Brenda's constant taunts wasn't enough, I found myself grappling with a whole new set of challenges on the home front. You see, Josh and I had been trying to conceive for what felt like an eternity, but we kept hitting roadblocks along the way. It wasn't just a matter of bad timing or missed opportunities. No, our struggles ran much deeper than that. You see, at 36, my biological clock was ticking louder than ever, and it seemed like every passing month brought with it a fresh wave of disappointment. We tried everything under the sun, from tracking ovulation cycles to experimenting with fertility treatments. But no matter how hard we tried, the universe just didn't seem to be on our side. It felt like we were trapped in a never-ending cycle of hope and heartbreak, with each negative pregnancy test feeling like a dagger to the heart. But despite the setbacks, we refused to give up hope. We knew that someday, somehow, our dreams of starting a family would come true. And boy, did they ever. Last month, after what felt like an eternity of waiting and wishing, I finally got the news I'd been longing for. That little pink plus sign staring back at me from the pregnancy test felt like a miracle in itself. I couldn't believe it. I was pregnant. Needless to say, I was over the moon with excitement. I practically shouted the news from the rooftops, calling up everyone I knew to share the joyous tidings. And of course, that included Josh's parents and sisters. I'll never forget the look on their faces when I told them the news. There were tears of joy, hugs all around, and more than a few celebratory cheers. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness, a glimmer of light in what often felt like a dark and lonely journey. Just when we thought our dreams were finally coming true, life threw us the cruelest curveball of all. Just 3 weeks after finding out I was pregnant, I experienced a devastating miscarriage, and we lost the baby. To say it was a gut-wrenching blow would be an understatement. In an instant, the joy and anticipation we had been feeling were replaced by a profound sense of loss and heartache. It felt like the ground had been ripped out from under us, leaving us reeling in a sea of grief. For me, the pain was almost unbearable. I had spent weeks imagining our future as a family of 3, dreaming about all the moments we would share with our little one, and to have those dreams shattered in an instant was a pain unlike anything I had ever experienced. But as difficult as it was for me, I knew I wasn't alone in my grief. Josh was right there by my side, his unwavering love and support acting as a lifeline in my darkest hours. He held me as I cried, listened as I poured out my heart, and reminded me again and again that we would get through this together. In those moments of despair, it was Josh who kept me going and gave me the strength to pick up the pieces and soldier on. And for that, I will be forever grateful. Just when I thought Brenda couldn't sink any lower, she paid me a visit while I was still reeling from the miscarriage. And let me tell you, her words cut like a knife. As she sat there pretending to offer comfort with her homemade casserole, Brenda couldn't resist the urge to twist the knife a little deeper. She started going on about what could have happened, implying that somehow the miscarriage was my fault. According to Brenda, Ava was a paragon of health and wellness, the picture of perfection in every way. She took such good care of herself, you see. So it's no wonder she never had any pregnancy complications. And then came the kicker. She not so subtly insinuated that my less than ideal lifestyle was to blame for the miscarriage. I was speechless, angry, hurt, and utterly speechless. How dare she? How dare she sit there and pass judgment on me in my time of need? And to compare me to Ava, as if her approval somehow held any weight. It was beyond ridiculous. But at that moment, I was too tired, too drained from everything I had been through to muster up a proper response. So I did the only thing I could think of. I told her the truth. I looked Brenda straight in the eye and told her exactly how I felt. I told her that it was pathetic of her to try and shift the blame onto me, to use my pain as a weapon against me. And as for comparing me to Ava, well, let's just say that I set the record straight. I told her that Ava never cared for her and never wanted anything to do with her. Their relationship was fraught with tension and resentment, a far cry from the picture-perfect image Brenda had painted in her mind. And to hold Ava up as some kind of standard to aspire to, it was laughable to say the least. After I laid down the truth bomb about Ava to Brenda, she completely lost it. Tears streaming down her face, she accused me of being mean and declared that she didn't want to talk to me or Josh anymore. And let me tell you, it left me feeling like I just stepped into a minefield. In the aftermath of Brenda's emotional meltdown, I couldn't help but question myself. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut and let her live in her fantasy world. But then again, isn't honesty supposed to be the best policy? I don't know now. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. So, am I the a-hole for telling the truth about my husband's late wife to my mother-in-law? Thank you everyone for your suggestions. When Josh got wind of what went down between me and his mom, he wasted no time in springing into action. First things first, he picked up the phone and dialed Brenda's number faster than you can say family drama. I could practically hear the tension crackling through the air as they exchanged words. And let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. Josh started off by offering a heartfelt apology on behalf of both of us. He acknowledged that things had gotten out of hand and expressed genuine remorse for any hurt feelings that may have been caused. But then, he also stood up for me. In no uncertain terms, Josh made it clear to Brenda that her comments were way out of line and that she owed me an apology, plain and simple. He didn't mince words or beat around the bush. He laid it all out on the table, raw and unfiltered. But Brenda, being Brenda, wasn't exactly keen on admitting fault. Oh no, that would be too easy. Instead, she dug her heels in and refused to budge, insisting that she had done nothing wrong. Cue the eye rolls and exasperated sighs. That's when Josh dropped the hammer. He calmly but firmly explained to Brenda that if she wanted him in her life, she was going to have to swallow her pride and apologize to me. It was a bold move, one that left me feeling equal parts proud and nervous. But instead of taking the high road, Brenda chose to hang up the phone in a fit of anger, cutting off all communication with both me and Josh. And just like that, we found ourselves at an impasse, stuck in a stalemate, with no clear resolution in sight. Yep, Brenda really went and crossed that line in the sand this time. And let me tell you, we're not about to back down anytime soon. If she wants to patch things up and have a chat with us, she's going to have to swallow that big old pride of hers and cough up an apology first. It's like Josh said, enough is enough. We've been over backward trying to smooth things over with Brenda. But it's like talking to a brick wall sometimes. If she can't see that she's in the wrong and own up to it, then she can kiss any chance of reconciliation goodbye. But you know what? As much as a part of me wishes things could go back to the way they were, another part of me is kinda relieved. Because life's too short to waste on people who can't take responsibility for their actions, especially when it comes to family. Just when I thought things couldn't get any messier, Josh's family decided to chime in with their 2 cents. Their opinions were about as welcome as a cold shower on a winter morning. It all started with a barrage of phone calls from Josh's dad and his sisters, each one more exasperating than the last. They all seemed to be singing from the same hymn sheet, urging us to just swallow our pride and apologize to Brenda already. Josh's dad started going on and on about how we were making a mountain out of a molehill, how we were blowing this whole thing way out of proportion. And then, just to add insult to the injury, he pulled the ultimate guilt trip, accusing us of tarnishing Ava's memory by telling Brenda the truth about their relationship. I couldn't believe my ears. Here we were, trying to stand up for ourselves and set some healthy boundaries, and Josh's own dad was turning against us. It felt like a betrayal of the highest order, and it left a bitter taste in my mouth. But as if that wasn't bad enough, Josh's sisters decided to jump on the bandwagon too. They bombarded us with texts and calls, all with the same tired old refrain. Just apologize and let it go. It was like talking to a brick wall. No matter how many times we tried to explain our side of the story, they just couldn't or wouldn't see things from our perspective. It was beyond frustrating, and it left us feeling even more isolated and alone in our own struggle. But you know what? We stood our ground. Just like we did with Brenda. We told them the same thing we told her, that Brenda crossed the line and she needs to apologize if she wants to patch things up. And if they can't accept that, well, that's their problem. Because at the end of the day, we know we're in the right, and we're not about to let anyone bully us into submission. So it's been about 2 weeks since my last update. Since then, Brenda really messed up this time, and I am afraid that we might not be able to go back. Yesterday, we got a call from Josh's dad saying that we needed to get there immediately and that Brenda was losing her mind. My heart practically leaped into my throat as I listened to the urgency in his voice, and without a second thought, we hopped in the car and raced over there as fast as we could. When we arrived, the tension in the air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Josh's parents looked like they'd seen a ghost, and it was pretty clear that something major had gone down. We wasted no time in asking them what had happened, and that's when they hit us with the bombshell. Brenda, in a fit of rage or whatever the heck was going through her mind, had gone and trashed a bunch of stuff that belonged to Ava. I couldn't believe my ears. Wedding photos, personal belongings, all of it just tossed out like yesterday's garbage. And the worst part, Josh's dad had found out about it after the fact when it was already too late to salvage anything. The look on Josh's face said it all. I could see the pain and betrayal written all over it, like a punch to the gut. To see his memories of Ava, his late wife, treated with such callous disregard, it was like watching a piece of his heart shatter right before my eyes. And me, I was just plain furious. How dare Brenda take it upon herself to play judge, jury, and executioner with someone else's belongings? It was beyond disrespectful. It was downright cruel. But as angry as I was, I couldn't help but feel the same sense of sorrow too. Sorrow for the memories that had been callously disregarded, and sorrow for the rift that had widened even further between us and Josh's family. Josh's reaction broke my heart in ways I never thought possible. Instead of lashing out in anger or frustration, he just stood there, his face a mask of quiet resignation. It was like watching someone come to terms with a loss so profound it defied words. But me, I wasn't about to let Brenda off the hook that easily. Oh no. I let her have it with both barrels, unleashing a torrent of anger and frustration that had been building up inside me for weeks. I told her exactly how I felt, how she'd really messed up this time, how she had no right to go digging through Ava's things and tossing them aside like they were nothing. I was furious, and I wasn't about to mince words. But Josh saw the bigger picture. He knew that getting into a shouting match with Brenda wasn't going to solve anything, that it would only make an already bad situation worse. So he stepped in, his voice calm but firm, and told me it was time to go. And you know what? He was right. As much as I wanted to give Brenda a piece of my mind, I knew deep down that it wasn't going to change anything. So I swallowed my pride, grabbed the car keys, and drove Josh home, his heart heavy with grief and disappointment. Hi guys, this is going to be my last update. So after Brenda went and pulled that stunt with Ava stuff, things kind of settled down a bit. We did end up getting an apology from her, but let me tell you, it was about as sincere as a plastic plant. You could practically see the insincerity dripping off her words. But Josh didn't want to stir the pot any further, so he just let it slide. In the meantime, we've been keeping our distance from Josh's family, steering clear of those dreaded family dinners and awkward get-togethers. It's been a bit lonely at times, I won't lie, but sometimes you gotta do what's best for your own sanity, you know. Josh's sisters actually came to us and apologized for their part in all the drama. They were just as shocked and appalled by Brenda's actions as we were, and they made it clear that they never expected her to go off the deep end like that. It was kind of a relief, to be honest, knowing that we weren't the only ones who saw how out of line Brenda's behavior was. They even mentioned how much they miss having us around for family nights. Apparently, things just haven't been the same since we stopped showing up, and they're feeling the void of our absence. It's nice to know that we're missed, you know. As for me, well, I'm hanging in there. Physically and mentally, I'm doing okay. Sure, there are still moments when I catch myself dwelling on everything that's happened, but overall, I would say that I'm holding up pretty good. Life's too short to dwell on the negatives after all. And hey, I just wanted to take a moment to say a huge thank you to all of you for your support throughout this whole ordeal. And that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again, and we'll be seeing you in the next one.